That brings us to our last speaker, Patty.
Hi, thanks so much for having me tonight. I'm going to talk a little bit about reference-based pricing, which reference-based pricing is a little contrary to my counterparts here on the panel because there is no network for facilities. There is a network for physicians, but there is no network for facilities. Reference-based pricing has been around for quite a long time, but you're hearing a lot more about it now, especially in the Houston area because of the oil and gas industry and the challenges companies are having just keeping their doors open. So they are desperate for any type of savings. And so they're looking at any type of cost savings on their health care because that's one of their bigger spends. And reference-based pricing, we're showing this to clients on a regular basis now. And what reference-based pricing is, it's reimbursing facility charges based upon a fixed fee regardless of the charge. There is no facility network. This is a partially self-funded arrangement. The same components you need to manage any insurance program exist in this program. There's physician-only network, typically it's PHCS, and physicians are reimbursed on their contracted agreement. The two approaches to this type of program is Medicare, so they're paying hospitals and out in facilities based upon Medicare charges plus a margin of 20 to 50%, whatever the contract that is negotiated up front. There's state filed procedure costs plus 10 to 30%, so that's how these facility charges are reimbursed. The difference between an Aetna or Blue Cross Blue Shield and reference-based pricing, the big difference is that Aetna and Blue Cross Blue Shield do all their negotiating with their contractors up front. On reference-based pricing with the facility charges, the employee goes and has their surgery. All the negotiation is done on the back end after the procedure is done. This is a very aggressive approach. Like I said, it's been around for a very long time. Not very many folks have engaged in this. It's gradually increasing where we're seeing more and more clients look at it. This is not a program for the parental employer that is usually, a lot of our oil and gas companies have very rich benefits, and they're taking care of their employees with $200 deductibles, $500 deductibles. Those are going away. Reference-based pricing still has those deductibles, but it's more consumerism. So you're getting the employees engaged early on. The employer plan only sees the true savings if the facility utilization is significant. They'll also see lower stop-loss premiums. Prior to implementing the strategy, a consultant needs to really do the due diligence and look at the claims to make sure that this is a good fit and that there actually will be savings. Administrative costs are typically higher in this program. The PHCS network discounts are not as deep as the Blue Cross Blue Shield and Aetna discounts are. Employees will be balance billed. They then must contact ELAC group, which is a group of lawyers that negotiate those fees after the surgery. So there's noise amongst the employer population. And there's also a time frame that the employee has to contact. So the employer must communicate the program very clearly to their employees if they decide to go this route. Otherwise, they may leave their employees hanging with a large balance bill. The risk associated with reference-based pricing, there's controversy around ACA compliance because of the balance billing, although the TPAs that are implementing this type of program will argue that they haven't had anybody out there that they've lost a case that has gone to court where they've lost a case where they didn't get that balance bill taken off of the employee. If an employer has high turnover, you have to have constant communication with the employees because, as you can imagine, there's a lot of education that goes into this program. So they're constantly having to re-communicate the out-of-network facility charges and the balance billing. Employees typically don't understand healthcare as it is today, so there's got to be a constant education process. If an employee does not contact ELAP in time, their credit may be affected. The negotiations are delayed as well. The positive side of this is that when we have implemented this with clients, we're seeing significant savings. And some of the questions that come back is the savings up front for the first year? We've actually have one client that have been under reference-based pricing for 5 years, and the savings has been consistent year over year. Their initial savings, they were a 200 life group that was hit with a very significant increase, which was about $3 million on their fully insured plan. They went to this program and saved not only the $3 million they were going to have to pay for their renewal increase, but they also saved an additional $1.1 million. That program, and they don't see that savings every year, but it has their program has remained fairly flat with very slight increases for trend year over year. Again, this is a very aggressive approach, and these are companies typically that are looking for significant savings quickly. A lot of times we see companies in distress going this route, but we are hearing a lot more interest in this type of program out in the marketplace. To help with that, the noise, there's also Nurse Navigator, so it helps the employees find facilities that have already, accepted the program in the past, and as well as physicians and MRIs, imaging centers, and that sort of thing for savings. You can imagine there's between 15 to 40% savings when you implement something like this. But like I said, it's very, very aggressive program. A little bit different way of looking at network versus no network. The next thing I was going to touch on is pharmacy, because pharmacy is another area that is becoming increasingly noisy within our client base. It's been noisy for a while, and so the way we're attacking the pharmacy uptick in healthcare cost with our clients is first by reviewing their contract. And if you read a PBM contract, and it always starts out very favorable for the PBM and not as favorable for our clients. And so we have certain areas that we look at to help our clients become a little more savvy when they're looking at their pharmacy spend. Rebates is one of them, is one area. These slides are very wordy, so I'm just going to briefly touch on them. You guys can read them at your leisure. But rebate guarantees, in most PBM contracts, in their very first contract, the rebates are going back to the PBM, and they're not being passed through to the employer. And these contracts are for self-insured clients and employers. So you want to make sure that all claims will reduce through the rebates back to the employer and not go back to the PBM. The next area is the rebate language that you're looking at, and how rebates are disclosed, what the amounts are, and are rebates based on the plan sponsor accepting the PBM's formulary? So these are questions that employers should be asking. The next area we look at is fee structure, and this is the average wholesale price minus the discount. So we're looking at discounts here. I'm running out of time, right? And we want to make sure that there's audit rights for these contracts too for our clients. We want to make sure there's definitions of brand versus generic, and they're very clear. We want to also look at traditional versus pass-through contracts. And I'm going to end there because I could probably spend an entire hour on contract review for PBMs.
Okay, great. Well, it looks like the slides died at about the same time.